This is Andrew Scheer, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, and if his party can win more seats than anyone else this October, he might become the 24th Prime Minister of Canada as well. But let's take a step back for a second. Scheer was born and raised in Ottawa at around the same time that Justin Trudeau was growing up in 24 Sussex. There, Scheer was educated at a Catholic high school and studied history at the University of Ottawa before moving to his wife's hometown, where he finished his bachelor's degree at the University of Regina. For a short time, he worked as an insurance broker. Beyond that, Scheer's has been a life singularly focused on politics. As a student, he worked on several political campaigns. In 2000, at the age of 20, he ran for school board, and in 2004, at the age of 25, he was elected as MP for the riding of Regina-Capel, which had previously been held by the NDP since its creation in 1988. He was subsequently re-elected in 2006, the year that Stephen Harper won his first minority government, 2008, 2011, 2015, the year that Trudeau's Liberals won their first government. In total, he's been a member of Parliament for almost 15 years, making him the longest-serving parliamentarian to currently lead a national party. He even spent the final Conservative Parliament from 2011 to 2015 as the youngest ever Speaker of the House of Commons. When it's all said and done, he has quite an impressive political resume, but that's not to say there aren't some black marks as well. On several occasions, he has come under fire for his comments on social issues. He chose not to participate in any pride parades, and even voted against gay marriage in the past. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to think one way or the other. Maybe you actually agree with him. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just don't care. But regardless of your own position, his defense of the criticism is pretty interesting. He simply says that he voted his conscience at the time, but his government will not do anything to change the current laws, which is pretty non-committal. If he now supports gay marriage, why not admit that he was wrong and explain how he's been opened up to new perspectives and arguments? If he's still against gay marriage, why not say that and stand up for his values and principles? He says that his government won't change the laws, but how would he vote if a Conservative MP presented a private member's bill to revoke same-sex marriage? No matter which way you would want him to act, his lack of commitment to one side or the other makes it hard to trust him in either case. But perhaps there's another way to look at this. Maybe this lack of commitment isn't actually a detriment to his status as leader. In fact, it's his explicitly stated purpose, and it's exactly where he shines. You see, despite what the recent 10-year reign of Stephen Harper might lead you to believe, or what their 150-year existence in one form or another might suggest, the Conservative Party has never really been all that united or successful. Since World War I, there have only been 7 Conservative Prime Ministers. 2 of those never held the confidence of Parliament following an election, and didn't last very long. Another only managed to last a single year before he was replaced by the very man that he replaced. One more only served a single term, following the exceptional turbulence that was the Great Depression, and he was also replaced by the man that he replaced. Which is not exactly a great reaction to your changes. Yes, we'd like to go back, please. Another managed to win 3 elections, but somehow that only managed to last for a term of 5 years. The only remotely successful Conservative Prime Ministers of recent memory have been Brian Mulroney and Stephen Harper, and even then, the 15-year gap between their 2 terms saw a turbulent period of fracturing and disunity among the Canadian right wing. The truth is, the only uniting factor for Conservatives is that they're more conservative than the Liberals, and that's it. There's just not that much else that binds free market capitalists to protectionist nationalists, or social libertarians to religious conservatives. But if they want to break the historical pattern of expansive gaps between their governments, and especially if they want to avoid a repeat of the disunited 90s, they need to find a way to hold together. And Andrew Scheer offered a pretty compelling bargain. During the 2017 Conservative leadership race, Scheer didn't actually ask his party to vote for him. Not directly anyway. That's because the Conservative Party uses a ranked ballot system to elect its leader. So you rank each candidate in numbered order based on how much you support them or wouldn't mind them being leader. After the election, everyone's first choice is tallied up. If no one has an absolute majority, the last place candidate is eliminated, and they tally up the second choices of everyone who voted for them. If there's still no majority, the process repeats until there is a majority. Scheer knew that he was popular enough to make it through the first round without being eliminated. He was well supported in his home province of Saskatchewan, and his loyalty to the party and Harper, as well as his newsworthy position as Speaker of the Commons, meant that he could expect to get a decent chunk of the vote elsewhere. But he also knew that his rather modest demeanor probably couldn't beat the popular Maxime Bernier this way. He was proposing a strong vision for a new Conservative Party that would shift further to the right and uncompromisingly support the free market, limited government, and Canadian patriotism. Scheer had no such plans, so he took a different tact. He said, "Look, I realize that within our party there's a broad spectrum of conservatism, and despite everything we agree on, there's also a lot that we don't. So I encourage you to vote first for whoever best represents your wing of the party. Go for it. But then mark me second, because while all these other candidates might be the perfect representative of your wing of the party, I'm the only candidate that's going to set all of our differences aside and focus on what unites us. Because a united Conservative Party that can beat Justin Trudeau in 2019 is better than a divided one that can't." That sounds like a good leader to me, and the Conservative Party agreed. As candidate after candidate was eliminated, the gap between Andrew Scheer's 21.8% and Maxime Bernier's 28.9% slowly shrunk. For 12 rounds, Bernier stayed ahead, but the gap kept shrinking and shrinking until finally, on the 13th round, upon the elimination of third place Aaron O'Toole, Andrew Scheer won a narrow majority, 50.95% to 49.05%. So, what are those values which he says can unite all Conservatives as a leader? In short, I have a vision for Canada where taxes are low, government is limited, opportunity is unlimited, and freedom is shared, and people are put before government. Basically, they're lowering and eliminating taxes, balancing the budget, and reducing the scope of government services to account for that. As far as Scheer's messaging goes, this election is about two things: affordability and not being like Trudeau. Scheer wants you to see his position in this election as an escape from Trudeau-style politics. Where Trudeau is happy to borrow debt, Scheer argues for cutting back expenses and services and balancing the budget. Where Trudeau finds himself in an ethics scandal, Scheer wants to not find himself in any kind of scandal and present himself as responsible and trustworthy. Trudeau is a social media prime minister. Scheer really isn't. Trudeau, who also lowered, or at least rearranged taxes in his first parliament, plans to solve unaffordability with government action, housing plans, and social programs. While Scheer wants to take Trudeau's previous tax cuts and benefits even further in all kinds of areas, especially the carbon tax, which the Conservatives will entirely repeal. Carbon emissions don't matter when families are struggling to pay the bills already, they say. Trudeau is sympathetic to irregular immigration. Scheer will be firm on illegal immigration. Trudeau talks a lot about inequalities between social classes. A gender-balanced cabinet was a non-negotiable guarantee for him. He's committed to acknowledging and apologizing for Canada's past wrongs. And of course, there's his infamous India trip that right-wing Twitter likes to talk about so much. Scheer, on the other hand, doesn't want to talk about that at all. Again, he's not taking sides because he's focused on what unites Conservatives. He's rarely going to talk about the social inequality side, and he'll usually tell his own party to shut up about their social issues too. It's universal Conservative values or no values at all. But the basic value that Scheer is presenting this campaign is that unaffordability is getting worse and worse in this country. I think all the parties agree on this. But you should vote for the Conservative Party if you agree that the primary driver of that inequality is government taxes and bloat. And if you agree that that should be cut, even if that means setting social services and the environment aside for a little while. They're not the priority. It's time for you to get ahead. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you liked learning about Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, I also have two videos on Liberal leader and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The first video goes over his early life and career, and then the second video goes over his first 4 years in government. Over the coming weeks, I'll also have videos on all of the national leaders, and in a couple weeks, I'll also have a video going over all of the party's platforms in detail to help give a more comparative look at this election rather than this sort of biographical video. So if you're interested in those, there will be a playlist linked somewhere over here eventually. And thanks for watching.